Hello, this lesson we will be talking about making well-rounded, believable characters. My name is Eric Buffington. I'm the author of the Stones of Power trilogy, and this video I'm making for my friends at Learning Bird. So we're going to talk about some elements of a deep character or a well-rounded, complex character. First off, we'll talk about physical description, why that's important. Then we'll talk about relatability and motivation. Let's start off with our physical description. When we're first introducing a character, we want to make sure that we describe the character. We can talk about their hair, their eye color, their skin color, their body type. These are shallow parts of who they are, but it's important as an author that you include this information so it helps the reader relate to this character. The depth of this can be increased and the power of this can be increased if we give a character some unique physical qualities. They could have a scar, they could have bleached hair, they could have a specific clothing type, they could have long hair that they love and later on they cut it off to sacrifice it, sell it to buy something nice for their family or something like that. But a unique physical quality can have depth and power later on if we develop it properly at the beginning. Alright? So having that physical description is important, and it can be powerful if it's a unique, fun, or interesting characteristic later on. After developing the physical, you also want to make sure that your character is going to be relatable. You want the reader to connect with the character. They don't necessarily have to like them all the time, but they need to be able to relate to the character. So when you have a main character, you don't have to make them always make good decisions. They can fail, they can do bad things, they can be imperfect, they can have weaknesses. We don't have to like everything about the character, but we need to be able to relate to the character. And actually giving the character some weakness might help you make the character's depth a little bit more complex and powerful. If a character is too extreme one way or another, they quickly become unbelievable. In life, you probably don't know a lot of people that make the right decisions all the time no matter what. You probably also don't know people who are evil all the time no matter what. There's not a lot of people like that on planet Earth, and so if we create a character that's like that, they quickly become unbelievable. So give your character a little bit of variety, and that will help give them some depth and complexity as well. The third point that I want to cover in this short lesson is motivation. This can make or break a character as you're writing. We want to know why characters act the way they act. If they're motivated by hunger, they might steal. If we don't understand that they're hungry, we don't understand that motivation, then we don't like that they're stealing, right? But it has to match as well. And so if we know the motivation, we can understand the actions, but the actions and the motivations have to match. Otherwise, things start to fall apart. I'll give an example of that. If you're hungry, you may steal a tomato from the farmer Joe's garden. But if you're hungry and you rob a bank, we're not going to like that. All right? So the motivation needs to match the level of what you're doing. Your motivation for good and your motivation for making mistakes too in characters. Having a solid motivation gives powerful depth to a character, why they do what they do, to what extent they're going to go to get what they want. Now, while we're doing all three of these things, developing physical characteristics, developing the relatability, and developing that motivation, we also have to remember a principle about writing. As readers, we want the writer to show us something. So as a writer, we need to show things. Here's a bad example of a paragraph, and I'll tell you why it's bad. Kaz was a wonderful young man. He loved his family and friends, and no matter what, he always did what was right. That's a terrible paragraph, and the reason why is because it ruins everything about your story. You know what Kaz is going to do at the end of the book because you just told them he's going to do what's right. If there's ever a conflict, you know Kaz is going to do what's right, and he's motivated by love for his friends and family. Instead, A better way to show these same characteristics would be to put Kaz in situations. Have him working with his family, have him being kind, have him showing respect, have a situation where he has to decide what to do and he chooses to do what's right. By showing instead of telling, it takes a little bit more effort from the writer, but it pays off in the end, and we get to see those characteristics developing in what the character is actually doing. That's a good trick for being an author, is to show and not tell as much as possible. So just as a quick recap, physical description, relatability, and motivation are all important factors in developing well-rounded characters. Make sure while you're developing those that you show the characters doing things instead of just telling what they're going to do.